by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
The previously untouchable Trident missile system may face a reduction in force as calmer times mean nuclear cuts.
And Japanese reaction to news that Los Angeles answers the call to buy American and will redo a deal to build rail cars. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. This is World Day. I'm Bobby Batista at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Reed Collins in Washington. With the Soviet Union gone, the state of President Bush's union is that much more secure. And so Mr. Bush reportedly is planning to announce sharp unilateral cuts in strategic missiles in his State of the Union speech next week. Some cuts, according to the New York Times, would depend on the response of the big four former republics. But it is believed the United States is now willing to pare back some of its sea-launched force, which in times past has been considered inviolate as far as negotiations were concerned.
The Estonian parliament today is debating the formation of a new government. Prime Minister Edgard Savisaar has resigned after failing to win parliamentary support for his economic crisis strategy. Last week, Savisaar won Parliament's approval to declare a state of economic emergency in Estonia. This gave his government extra powers to tackle the crisis. However, this week, Savisaar twice was unable to set up a joint government parliamentary commission to handle the state of economic emergency.
Day two of talks on the issue of international aid to the Commonwealth of Independent States began about 1 hour ago in Washington. Representatives from 47 countries are taking part in the conference, which is expected to wrap up sometime later in the day. Let's get some details now and go to CNN's Ralph Begleiter at the State Department. Ralph.
Reed, there's plenty of agreement among all the nations gathered here at the State Department that the people of the former Soviet Union need lots of economic help, but there's much less agreement on how much help is needed and who's going to pay for it. East Europeans, for instance, want to be sure they don't get the short end of the stick when checkbooks are opened for the former Soviets.
I'm quite sure that more help would be very welcome. But it was also emphasized by many speakers, including Hungary, that that is a short-term solution. And the Soviet Union or the former states of that union should not really become in any way dependent upon aid. So everybody is ready to help them, but they have to do most of the work.
German Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher tells CNN he's pushing especially for aid to the former Soviet Union's oil and natural gas industry, because once that's running at full tilt, the former Soviets will be able to repay the aid they get from the West. We'll talk at greater length with Minister Genscher later in this program. President Bush's sudden change of heart yesterday when he announced more than $600 million in new aid to the former Soviets is still far from enough, according to Italy's foreign minister.
Much more than that will be requested of the United States. Much more, really much more. The order of magnitude will be of the billions or tens of billions of dollars, not of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Some nations are already showing signs of being peeved at Mr. Bush's unexpected announcement of more aid. Kuwait's foreign minister, on his way into the building here this morning, reminded us this was not supposed to be a pledging conference. Ralph Begleiter, CNN, reporting live from the State Department.
Japan's Sumitomo Company says it got a raw deal when a commission in Los Angeles canceled its commuter rail contract. Sumitomo says its American operation employs 1,000 people. As CNN's John Lewis reports, most reaction in Japan is low-key, with an eye to possible future fallout.
The decision to shut aside Sumitomo's bid may have brought joy to some in Los Angeles. Here in Tokyo, initial reaction was more subdued. Newspapers and television newscasts reported the story from Los Angeles in an only the facts, ma'am manner. Sumitomo President Tomoichi Akiyama issued a brief written statement. He expressed regret over the decision, adding the company would wait for official word of the cancellation before considering what, if any, steps to take. The Japanese business community, coming under pressure from the entourage of U.S. President George Bush earlier this month, is well aware of the heightened trade friction between the two countries. A low-keyed response now is understandable. But some see the Los Angeles decision as a sort of political watershed in U.S.-Japan relations.
I think that the Japanese will take this very seriously as a message of that America means business when it talks about competing with Japan, when it talks about ensuring its own economy before the world economy.
But understanding that the decision might have been more political than economic still doesn't negate the underlying emotional factor in Japan. The LA decision will not go down well here. Many seeing it, rightly or wrongly, as yet another example of Japan bashing during this American election year. John Lewis, CNN, Tokyo.
Honda is recalling nearly 100,000 new cars worldwide. The problem is a faulty switch that can result in an oil leak. Included in the recall are 1992 Accords, Civics, and Preludes, as well as Acura Integras and Legends. Ironically enough, this recall applies only to the cars made in Japan, and not those Hondas made in the United States.
Well, another Japanese car maker says its reputation has been unfairly bashed in a report on bumpers. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety says bumpers on most small cars fail to prevent costly damage in low-speed crashes. The worst bumper in a test of 24 cars was on the Daihatsu Charade. The car maker says crashes like those in the test don't occur in real traffic. The insurance group says the Daihatsu bumpers caused the most damage at $3,800. Nearly as unprotected were the Pontiac Le Mans, Mazda MX-3, Ford Probe GL, and Mazda MX-6 DX.
The Japanese parliament reportedly is going to buy a couple of American-made Buicks. Fairly expensive cars are these, and about a $40,000 model, 2 Park Avenues, destined for Tokyo. Farther away, it's enough to make you ill. Space Shuttle Discovery astronauts are taking some stomach-churning rides and spins in the name of science. And some of the unsung heroes of the Gulf War swept into a new assignment when World Day returns, a look at European minesweepers, current and future missions.
I hate to break it to you, John, but it's going to be a big one this time. I'll give you a minute. Tough break. His first major repair, and it comes just 2 months after his manufacturer's warranty ran out. Worst part is he could have avoided this bill by signing up for Geico's mechanical breakdown insurance back when he bought his new car, or any time before it hit 11,000 miles. I suppose people think all extended warranties are too expensive, but with Geico, you get longer coverage than many car dealers' extended warranties at savings of 30 to 50%. You can even choose between 2 coverage plans for the same low price. And you can still see your favorite mechanic. So take a word of friendly advice. Call Geico today.
For longer coverage at savings of 30 to 50%, it's mechanical breakdown insurance from Geico. Sign up within 11 months or 11,000 miles of purchasing your new car or light truck. Call now for free information.
What can I tell you, John? You should have had the coverage.
Cutbacks continue. Recession. Politicians. Crime. Pollution.
Daycare. Not having any time.
Job insecurity.
You never needed it more. A new extra-strength pain reliever made to get today's tough headaches before they really get you. 1,000 milligrams, Stomach Guard, and the name Bayer. That should ease your mind. Introducing new extra-strength Bayer Plus. Now there's no pain you can't bear.
I have Denorex on this side. As soon as I put Denorex on my hair, I felt like the itch was going away. The tingle feels like it's taken away the dandruff.
Denorex with conditioners, the dandruff shampoo you can feel working.
I have no dandruff, and I have no itch.
On CNN Today, taking charge of your money after you've lost your job. Some tips on Day Watch. Then on Cryer and Company, a look inside the mob. How powerful is it? All today on CNN.
Sound and visual cues, and small electric impulses are applied to his legs.
Well, the fact that there's no snow in space didn't matter to the crew of Discovery today. At least 2 of them went sledding anyway, blindfolded and wearing earplugs. In one test, the astronauts were strapped to the sled on their backs with their legs in the air. In the other test, they sat upright. The experiment is designed to help scientists learn how to overcome space motion sickness.
In the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, troops loyal to the ruling military council continue to gain ground. Now they're said to have taken the western Georgian town of Sinaki. Forces loyal to the ousted president Zviad Gamsakhardia have sent negotiators there. Reportedly, they have agreed to some key demands from the revolutionary government, although clashes are reported elsewhere. Gamsa supporters continue to demand the former leader's return to power. One resistance leader says now they'll use peaceful means, though, in resisting the new government. Gamsa own whereabouts remain unknown.
Minesweepers in the Gulf War played a key role in keeping sea lanes safe. The work was dangerous, but far from glamorous. Minesweepers are still playing a strategic role as part of the NATO Rapid Reaction Force. CNN's Patricia Kelly spent time in the English Channel on British minesweepers on a training mission and filed this report.
It looks calm, but the dangers of the deep are ever present.
4:15. 15 at port, we're on, sir.
Happily, so too are the defenders.
The recent Gulf War and one or two other events in the past 10 years have shown that although it isn't glamorous and it's a slow process, mine hunting and clearing mines is important.
In World War II, only half the mines laid in the sea were recovered. They explode on contact and they're still being found today. In some parts of the world, they're still being used. Modern mines can be designed with the fingerprint of one particular ship. Mine hunters and sweepers are therefore becoming more sophisticated to deal with the threat. If there's no shipping around, then they blow them up. In a sensitive area, the mines have to be diffused. That depends on the skill of every man on board, especially the divers, underwater bomb disposal teams.
There are conditions under which I have seen the divers go in where I'm making a decision whether I should let them go in or not, because, you know, maybe it's the middle of the night or it's snowing, and they still have to go down there and do their job.
Resurfacing too quickly can give divers the bends.
3 meters, we're down.
Decompression chambers on board deal with that.
These are the unsung heroes of the Gulf War, conflicts like it in the past and inevitably those to come, fighting a cheap and effective weapon capable of crippling an entire navy long after the battle is over.
This multinational force is also a sign of the times and an example of NATO's new approach to defence. Scaled down smaller teams capable of reaching the trouble spots fast.
There's always going to be hot spots as nationalism takes charge and borders are redefined. That's an ongoing thing, and I think at the moment we're in a period of instability.
Dangerous it may be, but this branch of NATO's Rapid Reaction Force is unlikely to go hungry for work or something for supper. Patricia Kelly, CNN, on board HMS Quorn in the English Channel.
The United States will meet with Israel tomorrow in response to Israel's request for $10 billion in loan guarantees. It is widely expected that Washington will offer the Jewish state less than it wants and with strings attached. The U.S. is expected to link any aid to limits on Israeli settlements in the occupied lands. Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir toured a settlement yesterday, and he stressed that both U.S. financial help and Jewish settlements are vital to Israeli security.
For me, the territorial question is a general national problem. We do not distinguish between the various parts of the country. We have to build and develop everywhere.
President Bush sees the Jewish settlements in the occupied lands as obstacles to peace, so he persuaded Congress to hold off discussing the loans until today, giving the Middle East peace talks a chance to get going.
Well, it may be one on none in Barcelona. The Australian basketball team says it's thinking twice before it competes against the U.S. team in the Olympics if Magic Johnson's out there on the court. Some team members say they're alarmed that Johnson might pose a medical threat to them because he has the virus that causes AIDS. More details on this ahead on World Day Sports.
And coming up in a moment, an interview with German Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher. Stay with us.
Kennedy, the legend.
I suppose really the only two dates that most people remember where they were was Pearl Harbor and the death of President Franklin Roosevelt.
Kennedy, the leader.
I support strongly the Constitution. I support strongly the separation of church and state. I believe it's the best arrangement for our society, that I shall continue my devotion to the Constitution and support of it.
Kennedy,
the man.
Well, I attended Harvard. I just finished there this June. I'm interested more or less in working sometime in my life for the government, but I haven't really decided as yet.
Life magazine proudly presents what must be considered one of the most comprehensive videos ever produced on the private life of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. This is his story, told in his own words and pictured in film clips, many never before seen by the public, taken from the archives of the Kennedy Library. In addition to these rare moments of film, Life magazine has searched its own picture archives to bring you the most complete picture story of Kennedy's life ever told. And now this collector's video can be yours, free with your paid subscription to Life magazine. You'll get 13 big issues, including 2 special issues, The Year in Pictures and the Fall Special celebrating 500 years of America, all for 4 monthly installments of only $7.97 each. Life magazine is the picture monthly that keeps you in touch with the human side of major events and brings you the colorful, touching, dramatic, and personal stories of important people. Call now and you'll get even more. This valuable booklet, Life in the 60s, a picture log of the Kennedy era, as our special thank you for acting promptly. So call right now and receive 13 great issues of Life, the remarkable Kennedy video, the 2 special issues, and the extra gift, Life in the 60s. Call now.
Germany's Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher is among those attending the high-level meeting in Washington on how best to aid the emerging nations of what had been the Soviet Union. CNN's World Affairs correspondent Ralph Begleiter spoke with Mr. Genscher before this morning's session.
Mr. Minister, is there enough money in the West to meet the needs of the former Soviet Union, even with all the pledges that have already been given?
There is, but we need additional help. And for that reason, I think it was an excellent idea that the American administration invited this conference. Our help should not only focus on emergency help for humanitarian reasons, should not only be focused on financial help. It's very important that we start the program to educate and to train those people who in the future should play an important role in running a new market economy.
Will there come a time when the Soviet Union will be able to pay for the training and assistance you're speaking of?
I'm sure. That's the reason why Germany is strongly advocating to modernize the energy industry. Germany wants to focus international interest on modernization of their oil and natural gas production, because this will put them in a situation that they can export and can get a hard currency, and then they will have money enough to pay for training, for education, for outside investment, and they also will be in a position to build up their infrastructure. I think we have to focus on very special parts of their economy, and starting from these parts where we very soon will have positive results, and from this sector then we can spread the progress in establishing a working market economy.
Some people in the West would say that not only will the Soviet Union be able then to pay for the aid it receives, but it would also be able to pay for continuing its arms industry. Are you insisting that any of this aid be connected to reductions in the Soviet arms industry, and for that matter, reductions in the arsenal they already have?
This for us is a major condition for cooperation. We are insisting that the commitments given by the former Soviet Union and President Gorbachev should be fulfilled, and that additional commitments are necessary, because I think what's going on now in the West and in the East is a great chance to start a new period of disarmament. This is not only a question of saving money, it's a question of how to avoid a proliferation of nuclear arms. We shouldn't forget that 10,000 of nuclear artillery ammunition is spread all over the Soviet Union.
Is there a threat in those nuclear artillery shells being in the hands, for example, of some of the Islamic republics that were once part of the Soviet Union? Is there a danger that those weapons would find their way into other parts of the world?
Until now, I think there's no danger, but nobody knows what will be in 1 or 2 years' time. So I think it's the right time to start such an initiative and to eliminate as soon as possible, and when they are not in a position to eliminate with their own means, then I think it would be the proper way for the West to help them.
You've had a chance to meet Boris Yeltsin. He's been on the scene for a relatively short time as the leader of Russia, and as certainly the dominant leader of what was once the former Soviet Union. Is he the kind of man, you think, who can manage this delicate process of both economic recovery and arms reduction at the same time over the next year? What do you see as the prospects for Yeltsin?
I think the man is in unique situation. He has to face at the same time problems of huge dimension. And for that reason, I think he and the other leaders need great help by the West. One should not only focus on Yeltsin, he's the most important one, the strongest personality, but there are 11 republics, and they also need close cooperation, close relations, and very close, also a very important negotiation to develop our relationship with them.
They're all pretty inexperienced at it, though.
Yes, of course they are. So, but even for that reason, close contacts can be helpful.
Thank you very much, Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher, for joining us on CNN. I'm Ralph Begleiter in Washington.
And still to come on World Day, the housing crisis for South Africa's blacks. We'll look at the growing misery in the country's fastest-growing city.
That cough sounds awful. Come home.
When you have to doctor a bad cough, reach for new Robitussin Maximum Strength Cough from the brand more doctors and pharmacists recommend. It lasts up to 8 hours, and you can't buy a stronger cough medicine without a prescription.
I'm glad to see you.
This'll help.
New Robitussin Maximum Strength Cough. Big relief for your worst coughs.
In today's global economy, many people commute to work by 747, often KLMs. That's because we go to more cities in Europe, Africa, and the Mideast than all U.S. airlines combined, which helps explain why KLM is the airline of the seasoned traveler, no matter how long the commute.
Remember when cats sang for Meow Mix? Well, now there's an all-new Meow Mix. With flavors cats prefer 3-to-1. If cats sang for the old Meow Mix, what'll they do now? All-new Meow Mix. Tastes so good, cats ask for it by name. Meow. To say the least.
I'm scared!
Kidnapping him was easy. We're only after the money. Nobody is going to hurt the boy.
I'll say they're not.
The hard part was letting him go. Sybil Shepherd, Memphis. Monday on TNT.
I'm CNN meteorologist Valerie Voss. The snow continues to come down across southern France, and in fact, in some ski areas, more than 2.5 meters have been reported. These pictures from earlier today in Toulouse, France. As you can see, snow on runways and roadways caused problems, knocked out power. It looks like that snow will be around for just a little while. I will have the complete world weather tour at about 45 past the hour. World Day continues now.
Valerie. Cape Town has the distinction of being South Africa's fastest-growing city, but it owes most of its growth to shantytowns springing up on its outskirts. As Jeremy Thompson reports, the slums draw blacks desperately looking for work, only to be trapped in poverty.
Every morning, the lucky few set off for work in Cape Town, just for a while leaving behind the shacks they call home. But for the majority of blacks, there is no employment, and with no money, little hope of escaping from these sprawling shanty towns. The splendor of nearby Table Mountain remains a distant dream. The beautiful city of Cape Town, with its affluent white suburbs, is now surrounded by massive squatter camps, crammed with black families drawn to the city in search of work and a better life. Each month, several thousand more pour in, only to be trapped in what the government calls informal settlements. Since influx control laws were scrapped, Cape Town's become the fastest growing city in southern Africa, creating a housing crisis the government simply cannot cope with. Bulldozers used to be the official response to illegal housing, but now the machinery of state is busy laying sewage and water pipes for temporary homes that are fast becoming permanent. Though the rudimentary toilets and taps often serve dozens of families who have no facilities at all in their homemade huts. In Cape Town, 80% of all blacks live in these informal settlements. To residents like Pamela Malaleka, the new South Africa means no more than one day getting a brick home.
Maybe we got a new things. We can't stay with a house like that. We want the brick houses and the water and the toilet, everything.
But the government claims it hasn't the resources to build houses for poor blacks.
I certainly don't feel satisfied because one realizes the desperate need out there. But I think we're doing the best we can with the means at our disposal.
And that doesn't mean houses.
That certainly doesn't mean houses.
However, several of the government's serviced sites remain empty, boycotted by squatters who reject the facilities as inadequate. They also fear that overcrowded land will lead to more faction fights, which in the past have claimed hundreds of lives. The forlorn toilet blocks now stand as headstones to a failed housing policy. Critics claim the state is struggling to shed the concept of apartheid.
The state is still talking about building black townships on the edges of cities, on land which is still far from the center and so on. And those are just, they're not on. They're just not on for South Africa of the 1990s. It's not on in terms of what people want. They're not the kind of South Africa that people have struggled for.
The outskirts of cities like Cape Town have an increasingly third world look. Across the country, at least 7 million blacks now live in shanty towns, more than the entire white population, a political and social nightmare for whoever governs the new South Africa. Whatever political changes take place, unless a solution can be found to this massive housing crisis, there's little chance of South Africa's cities becoming racially integrated. Jeremy Thompson, ITN, Cape Town.
Latest financial news and the check of the top stories is ahead on World Day. And we'll check on some dolphins, too, raised in captivity, but responding surprisingly well to the call of the wild.
For those of you who have been reluctant to wear a hearing aid, Miracle Ear has more great news. If you have trouble hearing in noisy situations, the exciting Miracle Ear Clarifier may be your answer. The Clarifier features a special filter that automatically reduces background noise.
In a restaurant situation, it picks up the noises I want to hear, but the other noises are just moved off into the background.
If you or someone you know thinks they may be suffering from hearing loss, call Miracle Ear at this number and receive helpful information.
It really makes a lot of difference in your way of hearing and in your way of life.
Call this number. Miracle Ear will send you a booklet on better hearing, plus a coupon for a free hearing test. Call today. Learn about all the good news from Miracle Ear.
A lot of people don't even know you got it, especially the one I got, the design that I got.
Call this number. Find out if Miracle Ear can help you.
World Day continues, followed by Day Watch after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
ESPN Outdoors. Every Saturday, host Tommy Sanders guides you through 4 hours of outdoor adventures from around the world.
Look at that, I've got 2 bass on there.
Learn new skills. How to live in unison with nature and keep abreast of current environmental issues. It's as big as all outdoors. Saturday mornings, ESPN Outdoors.
Bold, brave, courageous. Elite military teams and strike forces from around the world, trained to the peak of perfection, ever ready to meet the challenge. Go inside the ranks of the French Foreign Legion, the Canadian Special Forces, the Italian Alpine Troops, Germany's 1st Airborne, and our own Navy SEALs. See what it takes to be the best. World of Valor, a world premiere series, Fridays at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
This is CNN.
A quick look now at today's top stories. Washington sources say the U.S. may cut its submarine missile force depending on arms reduction talks between the U.S. and Russia. And President Bush reportedly is even willing to make a first reduction in the Trident fleet. The two-day conference on aid to the Commonwealth of Independent States ends today. The final session is expected to focus on coordinating the international effort. President Bush says the U.S. will pledge an additional $645 million in aid. The European community says more than $78 billion in aid already has gone to the former Soviet republics. Japan is reacting cautiously to the news that Los Angeles officials are scrapping a deal with a Japanese-owned company. The Los Angeles County Transportation Commission yesterday voted to cancel the $122 million contract for commuter rail cars. The Japanese company's president says the decision had nothing to do with business.
Now let's get the World Day Financial Report and all the business. And here's Jan Hopkins in New York. Jan?
Thanks, Reed. Stock prices are moving higher once again following yesterday's late afternoon rally. Right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 4 1/4 points at 3260. Volume is heavy again today, 52 million shares traded so far. Advancing issues are just slightly ahead of declining issues. The broader markets are down and the secondary markets are higher. Many investors seem to think that the cancellation of Sumitomo's contract with Los Angeles County is good news for Morrison Knudsen. That stock is up 1 5/8 at 54.5. Morrison Knudsen was one of Sumitomo's competitors in bidding to build rail cars for Los Angeles County. Long-term interest rates are rising for the second straight day. Bond traders bearish ahead of the Treasury's $9 1/4 billion auction of 5-year notes later today. The bellwether 30-year bond right now is down 1/2 point in price, and the yield stands at 7.66%. The dollar is recouping some lost ground. It's up 1 pfennig against the German mark, up 1/3 of a cent against the British pound, and up 1/3 of a yen against the Japanese currency. The financial markets are not much moved by the latest news on the jobless front. More Americans applied for first-time unemployment benefits in early January. New jobless claims rose by 46,000 to 447,000 in the week ended January 11th. That's about in line with what analysts had expected. A tiny gesture in a very big trade dispute. Japan's parliament today saying that it plans to buy 2 American cars. The parliament will purchase 2 of General Motors' Buick Park Avenues. Japan's ruling Democratic Party requested the action to help encourage American imports. Buick Park Avenue costs about $46,000. And finally, stocks in London are struggling to stay in the plus column after a 2-day losing streak. The Financial Times 100 index is up a fraction at just under 25.23. Investors in Tokyo overnight in a buying mood for the second straight sessions of bargain hunting, and expectations of lower interest rates lifted the Nikkei average 1/4% to close at 21,580. That's the latest in business news. Let's take one last check of the stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is now up 5 points. We'll have another update in 1 hour. I'm Jan Hopkins, reporting from the Business News Desk in New York.
Formulating some creative solutions to future problems that face the world. That's the gist of a novel written by the Turner Tomorrow Fellowship winner, Daniel Quinn. A talk with the author in a moment.
Before we go too much further, they say diversify to reduce risk, but I'm no financial expert.
I know how to build a house, not a portfolio.
How do you judge each investment? When to buy or sell?
And who has time to follow the market?
Because most people can't be masters at everything, Fidelity Investments created the Fidelity Asset Manager. In one easy mutual fund, it seeks to diversify among and across stocks, bonds, and money markets. And Fidelity professionals carefully watch your investment for you, gradually adjusting your assets to keep pace with changes in the market.
It's designed for those of us who aren't financial experts.
Call now for this free fact kit on the Fidelity Asset Manager.
I called. You should too. There's no pressure to invest. There's no sales charge either. All your money works for you.
Diversification made simple. Call 1-800-356-8100 for your free fact kit. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results. Share price, yield, and return will vary.
This was me with dull gray hair. I looked washed up. Then I found a whole new way to make my gray look great.
Introducing a new kind of shampoo from the makers of Just for Men Hair Care called Great Looking Gray. Great Looking Gray does more than clean and condition. It gets rid of the dullness, even yellow buildup, brings out the real silver.
What a difference it makes.
New Great Looking Gray shampoo. And for stubborn yellow, new Great Looking Gray anti-yellow treatment.
Today, drugs in the schools, drive-by shootings, gangs, the fears and challenges of everyday life. How does urban violence affect children? Today on Sonia Live, 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific on CNN.
A boost for the sagging U.S. electronics industry. The Japanese government has agreed now to consider bids from U.S. computer companies rather than buying strictly from Japanese companies. U.S. Trade Representative Carla Hills and the Japanese Foreign Minister Watanabe signed the agreement yesterday. It could be worth up to $5 billion in U.S. exports and could mean more U.S. jobs. Next, the administration will work to open the Japanese to U.S. glass and paper products. Philippines soon may have a smaller purse into which to dip. U.S. ambassador to the Philippines says that aid to that nation may be cut back sharply after U.S. forces complete their pullout from the military bases there. That pullout's to be finished by the end of this year. The ambassador says without the bases, justification for the assistance disappears. War has been over for a long time in Nicaragua, but yesterday a display of that nation's ongoing campaign to ensure peace. Contra rebels and the leftist Sandinistas got together to surrender weapons. About 70 former Contras and 80 one-time Sandinistas destroyed their weapons in this ceremony and vowed they'll work now for peace and democracy. They had rearmed after doubting the government's commitment to peace.
Well, what work of fiction looks most creatively at the search for solutions to the world's problems? The Turner Tomorrow Fellowship gives out a cash award to a book that fits that billing. In 1991, TBS Chairman Ted Turner announced that author Daniel Quinn had won $500,000 for his novel, Ishmael. Mr. Quinn spent years writing this novel, which was chosen from over 2,500 manuscripts. Ishmael contains a series of conversations between a man and a gorilla. Proposals and solutions to the world's problems are explored. And Daniel Quinn is here now in our Atlanta studios to talk about his work. Thanks so much for joining us. In fact, this book was 13 years in the making.
Yes,
and through numerous manuscripts and was rejected from a lot of previous publishers. Do you think that maybe it was just a book whose time has come?
Oh, yes, very definitely. This is what I realized when I first heard the announcement of the award. Was I realized that finally there is someone who not only will look at my book, but wants to see my book. And this is exactly what I've been struggling with for all these years.
Well, as we mentioned, the book is a series of sort of searching conversations between man and ape, and it's about man's place in the scheme of things. It is not so much a New Age book about man finding his own personal meaning of life. Definitely a distinction.
Yes. This is certainly a question that comes up in the book, is that I think that we have to look away from finding out how to save me and think about how to deal with the world and become part of the world again. Stop worrying about our souls and being safe, and that's certainly a theme in the book.
The book divides man into givers and takers. What is the concept there?
Levers and takers.
I'm sorry, levers and takers.
The levers of the world are the ones who have, in fact, left the world alone and have not tried to make it their possession, whereas we have taken the world and made it our possession. We treat it as though it were a chattel of ours, a piece of real estate that we own, and that the rest of the community of life is just there by our sufferance, really. And that if they come out badly, that's too bad for them, because this is our world, and we bought and paid for it at some time or other in the past. We have the deed to it, signed by God, presumably.
Unfortunately, the takers are winning, aren't they?
Yes, they certainly have won so far.
This, you were once a Trappist monk, and you've made several religious references. Would you say that the book is essentially religious in nature?
Yes, I didn't try to stress that in this book because I figured that there was going to be enough matters of controversy in it without drawing that into it. But the book that I'm working on now will address the religious aspects of it more directly.
Speaking of controversy, this book did not win without a little bit of controversy. In fact, a couple of the judges had threatened to quit. Moreover, the process and the books that they had to review, and I think several of them felt like they'd been sort of taken or had. How did you feel about that?
Well, I knew, excuse me, I knew that that I was all right in the sense that I had worked on this book for 13 years, and so the process worked, I felt, fairly in that finally the work that I'd done was recognized and accepted. Excuse me.
I think there was concern over such a huge sum of money, which is supposedly the largest literary award ever given, that a huge sum of money was being given to one single author.
Yes, and Styron made this point that there were many authors out there struggling, and he didn't realize at that time that I was one of those authors and that I spent such a huge amount of my life on this book. And that if you work it out, divide 13 years into $500,000, you find out that I didn't make a killing there by any means. So that I think if he'd understood that this wasn't just something I knocked off in 6 months, I think he might have had a different take on that.
13 years. Who influenced you, or what influenced you to come up with this book?
That's a long story. It really is. I could talk about it for hours because it wasn't one thing. It was many things over many years. And I began to struggle with a complex of ideas. And for many years, I didn't have a book at all. I just had attempts that I made to grapple with a huge amount of material and sort it out and sort it out and sort it out. It was really only with Ishmael that I got the final sort.
I'm not going to ask you what that is because I don't want to give away the book. Do you feel like this book will make a difference later, perhaps, if not now?
That's my hope, really, that it will sort of sink into the consciousness of the people of our culture, the way that, say, the ideas of Sigmund Freud sank into it. No one talks about Sigmund Freud, but we all use his language. And his ideas are part of the way we view the world now. And I hope that that'll be the same with this.
Well, I know for me, personally, if you like Joseph Campbell or the readings and writings of Black Elk, that you'll enjoy Ishmael very much. And Daniel Quinn, we thank you very much for joining us on World Day today.
Thank you.
Reed?
Well, a possible roadblock for Magic's Olympic dreams. That story is coming up on World Day Sports.
Something's waiting inside the powerful 486 SX computer. A technology that will make it even more powerful. We call it Room for the Future. Introducing built-in upgradability. Check into it. From Intel, the computer inside.
This dry skin itch, won't anything stop it fast?
Lanacaine will. Lanacaine shuts off the itch like a switch, fast. Only Lanacaine cream works on contact with the nerves that cause dry skin itch. Look, Vaseline Intensive Care can't. Jergens can't. These can't. And Lanacaine Deep moisturizes too. Helps heal rough, dry skin. For dry skin itch, every itch.
Lanacaine does shut off the itch. Like a switch, fast.
Taking off for vacation this winter? How about hitting the slopes at a fun western ski resort with an Advantage Rent-A-Car Plymouth Voyager or Jeep Cherokee? Or you could hop a jet to the Links of Arizona, rent a roomy Chrysler New Yorker, and golf your brains out. Or maybe head down to the Texas coast for fun in the sun in a LeBaron convertible. I hear there's even this nude beach down there. Just kidding. Advantage Rent-A-Car, the rising star in rental cars. Give us a call when you take off this winter.
On CNN Today, taking charge of your money after you've lost your job. Some tips on Day Watch. Then on Cryer and Company, a look inside the mob. How powerful is it? All today on CNN.
Well, how to lose all that snow? That's just one of the weather problems the world's facing now. Let's go to Valerie Voss. Valerie?
And Reed, I'm sure it's Toulouse that would like to lose the snow. It is still snowing in some sections of southern France. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's start with some heavy rains that have been falling across some eastern and central sections of Brazil, associated with a trough of low pressure that is drifting slowly eastward, but anywhere from 50 to 100 millimeters of rain have fallen in the last 24 hours. That's 2 to 4 inches. There's some fog across some western sections of the continent. A rather strong low pressure center pushing up across southern Chile and Argentina will bring some rains and perhaps some thunderstorms through Argentina and into southern Peru with time today. Some conditions, 1200 Greenwich Mean Time, and our next stop is the Pacific region, where some cold air across northeastern China is producing some snow in that region. I think our next stop is the Pacific region anyway, and there is also some snow shower activity occurring up across northern sections of Japan around Sapporo. Indonesia still reporting showers and thunder showers. A frontal system that stretches across Australia from Kimberley in the northwest down to Sydney in the southeast, producing scattered rain showers and thunder showers. Also some light rain moving on to the South Island in New Zealand, just not quite visible on this picture. 1200 Greenwich Mean Time, some representative conditions. And moving on to the African continent, things are very quiet with high pressure. Some showers and thunder showers reported around Madagascar and over to Angola. A few rain showers northeastern Mali, and there are sandstorm conditions being reported with very strong winds and blowing sand from Niger to Sudan. Low pressure in the western Mediterranean is what is responsible for our snow that stretches into southern France. Let's take a look at the European conditions map. You see that low pressure area, and you see snow continuing southern France and even as far back as Albacete, Spain. Temperatures in that region right around or below the freezing mark, and boy, has it caused problems. Let's take a look first at the Perpignan region of France, where the snow continues to come down, and it is a beautiful sight if you don't have to get out and drive in it. It's much as 50,000 people, however, have been without electricity, and in Perpignan, 42 centimeters or 17 inches of snow have fallen. The snow stretched all the way south to Biarritz along the beach. At Carcassonne, 45 centimeters or 19 inches of snow reported. And up in the mountains in the ski reports, for instance, Chamonix, 2.5 meters or 100 inches of snow have fallen. A state of emergency has been declared in the Pyrenees. The snow has also been falling in parts of Spain, especially the Catalonia region. At Figueres, Zaragoza, and Mallorca, it makes driving very difficult. There have been numerous accidents, and they say that that has made many roadways impassable. Up a little farther to the north, it's quiet for the British Isles, but rain and windy conditions across the Norwegian Sea. Conditions, 1200 Greenwich Mean Time, and forecasts are for some specific European cities for Friday. We hope it's a great day, whatever your weather, wherever you are, and drive carefully. World Day continues with Bobby Batista.
All right, Valerie, thanks. Well, the upcoming Summer Olympics has its first major controversy, unfortunately. Here's Tom Steiner.
Bobby, sooner or later, it was bound to happen. The question has finally been asked. Would Magic Johnson pose a realistic threat of passing on the virus that causes AIDS if allowed to compete again? Magic Johnson's recent announcement he'd like to compete in the Summer Olympics has put a scare in at least one international team. In the wake of a recommendation from an Australian Olympic Federation medical official, the Aussie basketball team is considering boycotting the Americans if Johnson plays. Several members of the Australian Olympic team spoke out about the issue of Johnson perhaps playing in the games. Senator Ray Borner said he's concerned, especially since there is bleeding that occurs, and Johnson is, of course, HIV positive. Borner also stated he'd rather forfeit a possible gold medal than to have to be on the same court as Johnson. Aussie captain Phil Smythe said that if they can prove medically that he is in no danger, then he would, of course, play. I spoke with former Australian national coach Lindsay Gaze earlier today, and he told me he doesn't believe compulsory HIV testing for all Olympic competitors is necessary, and that the thought of a possible boycott is not the answer.
Well, I was very disturbed at the comment in the first place. It seems to me that it's ill-informed and certainly inappropriate. It's there's been enough in the news these days, and I thought that there had been sufficient public awareness now.
Do you think that other countries might follow suit? I know the Australians are considering a boycott, but do you think this will create sort of a trickle-down effect?
I would doubt it very much, because especially when FIBA, the International Basketball Federation, actually, my understanding is, they actually issued an invitation for Magic to play. So I would believe that most basketball federations throughout the world would take that as a guide and react accordingly.
Current Australian Olympic coach Adrian Hurley has left the decision to play up to each individual on his team. Well, the first of the 4 Grand Slam tennis events is winding up down under. The Australian men's semifinals will be staged today, and unseeded players make up half the field. 20-year-old Wayne Ferreira, who has never won a professional tourney, will have his hands full against world number 1 Stefan Edberg. The other semifinal has number 2 Jim Courier of the United States facing unseeded Dutchman Richard Krajicek. The women's finale is all set. Both semifinals were won in straight sets. Top seed and defending champion Monica Seles needed only an hour to reach the championship. There, she will tangle with American Mary Jo Fernandez, who surprised number 3 seed Gabriela Sabatini to reach her second Aussie final in the last 3 years. And now, let's spend a moment reviewing all the World Day numbers on a roll. We've got to run, but next hour we'll have some run-and-gun fun from the NBA. We'll hope to see you then. Reed?
Well, Tom, there is this bold male dolphin that leads a group of his buddies to freedom as marine experts around the world watch in amazement. The story's just ahead when World Day continues.
How's your sinus pain when you bend over?
It hurts right in the top part of my nose. I mean, my eyes just ache.
Did you know all these sinus pain formulas have the same medicine?
Is that right? The Sudafed sinus?
They're all the same, but not this.
Dristan sinus? What's different about this?
It's got the modern pain reliever ibuprofen.
I would like to try Dristan sinus. Oh, I feel so much better. I mean, I don't feel any pressure at all. No sinus pain, no drowsiness. This is it, Dristan sinus.
Dristan, the face of relief today.
Some people don't know it, but they're paying too much in taxes. Take these two, identical in many ways. Similar homes, similar income, similar investments. But one could be paying 28% more tax on his savings and investment income. That's over $200 on every $800 earned. The other called Fidelity Investments toll-free and found out how to invest tax-free in this free fact kit on Fidelity tax-free funds. It shows you how to earn income that's 100% free from federal income taxes. And in some states, your income may be free from state and local taxes, too. And there's no sales charge, which means all your money is working for you. So call for your free fact kit on Fidelity Investments tax-free funds. Call right now and you'll also get this bonus booklet, Understanding Tax-Free Investing. See how Fidelity gives you the facts you need to make up your own mind without pressure.
Hello, Fidelity?
Keep more of what you earn. Call 1-800-328-4100 today. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results.
Madison, you should have seen me at this meeting. I was cool, I was confident, I had everything they wanted before they could ask for it. Research, no problem. The analysis, the projections, never looked better. Madison, oh, you should have been there.
Cambridge Businesswear keeps you organized, together, and always looking your best in business.
You and me, kid, we're going places, huh?
Cambridge Businesswear, as important to the way you look as the clothes you wear.
The graceful, friendly dolphin has long enchanted animal lovers, but a group of dolphins in Australia has even the marine experts in awe. Carolyn Bertram has their story.
In a process expected to take weeks, months, possibly years, the Atlantis dolphins have returned to the wild in a matter of days.
Everything's gone a lot faster than we originally thought it would.
A bold male by the name of Raja led the group of 9 dolphins back to the wild. Since then, Dr. Nick Gales and his team have been up and down the coast, tracking the mammals with the help of specially fitted radio transmitters.
Fortunately, the transmitters have been working really well. In fact, without them, I'm sure we wouldn't have found any. We followed all of them except for Raja for the first 4 or 5 days since they've been out.
After following the dolphins, Dr. Gale says their condition is good and he's confident they're feeding well in the wild. The only worry is a group of 3 males which he's been unable to locate. If you see one of the dolphins, Atlantis is desperate for information.
Take note of whether or not they have a transmitter on their dorsal fin. It's a small thing about the size of a matchbox. Or if they have a small number on the dorsal fin, they have little white numbers. And if they do see that, if they could telephone Atlantis Marine Park, we're in the phone book, and let us know where and when they saw the animal, that would be of enormous assistance to us.
The dolphins were taken from the pools of Atlantis just 3 months ago. Now marine experts around the world are focused on the unique success of this operation. So far, the dolphins seem more than happy to be back home.
That report again from Carolyn Bertram in Australia.
Well, ever wonder what it's like to be a bobsledder?
And I remember smelling the fiberglass burning on the ice. I was wondering if it wasn't a helmet, but it was a fiberglass.
Chris strokes his brother. Our guests tomorrow on World Day include members of the Jamaican bobsled team.
That Washington Conference on Aid to what once had been the Soviet Union is to conclude today. And on the International Hour today, how much help is needed and in what form? We'll hear from the U.S. Agriculture Secretary and from a Russian expert. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's World Day Today. I'm Reed Collins in Washington.
And I'm Bobby Batiste at CNN Center in Atlanta. Donna Kelly's here now with a look at what's next on Day Watch.
Bobby Reed, thanks. Coming up on Day Watch for our U.S. viewers, jobless Americans may get more help. President Bush reportedly is considering another extension of unemployment benefits. And personal finances are a key concern of people who suddenly find themselves out of work. Our guest in our Watch Your Dollars will offer financial planning tips for people who are newly or about to be unemployed. Stay with us. Day Watch is coming up right after this break.
Coming up, Day Watch, followed by Cryer and Company, after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.
If you'd like to give a special gift to a boy or girl 8 years old and up, get your pencil ready and write down this number because I've got just the answer for you. It's National Geographic World Magazine, published especially for kids by the National Geographic Society. It brings real-life adventure, page after page of fascinating articles and pictures in National Geographic color. Young readers will have fun exploring Earth, sea, and sky, and the environment and ways to protect it. And enjoy articles on sports, hobbies, science, and adventure. It entertains while it fulfills curiosity, stimulates the imagination, and encourages reading. And when you order the 12 colorful issues of World, your child also becomes a junior member of the National Geographic Society. Your child will receive this welcome kit that includes a junior membership certificate, an ID card, a colorful iron-on emblem, plus the chance to compete for a $5,000 scholarship. Your youngster can feel part of National Geographic's century-old tradition of promoting research, exploration, and geography education. Only $12.95 for junior membership and 12 issues of World Magazine and much more. Compare this unique once-a-month, 12 times a year gift to a single gift from a toy store, and you can see what a bargain this is. No shopping, no wrapping, no shipping. You cannot get World Magazine at a newsstand or a bookstore. You can only get it as a junior member of the Society. Just call with that special child's name and address today. Call 1-800-257-1257. Each issue has exciting surprises, challenging games and puzzles, inspiring stories about other kids, plus extra-large pull-out pages. What a wonderful opportunity to introduce children to world and everything it offers. And when you call with your gift order, we'll mail a special personalized gift card from you. Call 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257.
This is CNN.
Los Angeles changes its mind, but was it a simple business decision or, as charged, Japan bashing?
How do people across the United States feel about the idea of buying only American cars? The answer may surprise you.
Democrats and Republicans push for extending unemployment benefits, but there's disagreement over how to pay for it.
And we'll talk with an accountant who specializes in financial planning for the unemployed or just about to lose your job. Those stories and more for Thursday, January 23rd.
This is Day Watch with Bob Kane and Donna Kelly. News for the conscientious consumer.
Good morning. President Bush is reportedly ready to support the idea of another extension of unemployment benefits. Unidentified administration officials are being quoted by the Washington Post as saying Mr. Bush will either propose an emergency extension or support somebody else's. It would be the second such extension since November. A subcommittee of the House Ways and Means Committee is holding hearings today on a Democratic plan to extend coverage for an additional 13 weeks. The measure is sponsored by Committee Chairman Dan Rostenkowski.
We face nothing short of unemployment emergency and a crisis of confidence. There are nearly 1 million workers receiving emergency unemployment compensation, and about 600,000 of them will be running out of benefits starting February 15th. We must act quickly to provide them with an extension of benefits so that they and their families can pay their bills and make ends meet until the economy begins to recover.
Democrats want Mr. Bush to declare a budget emergency so the cost of extending the benefits could be paid by extra federal borrowing. Republicans also want to extend benefits, but they're proposing other ways to pay for it, including possibly closing tax loopholes.
Layoffs are part of the slimming down of corporate America. They recently have been massive, and experts say they could haunt the economy for years. United Technologies is among the latest to announce it's trimming its ranks. It's cutting nearly 14,000 jobs over the next 4 years. Earlier, GM announced it's eliminating 74,000 jobs. IBM is cutting 49,000, and Citicorp is doing away with 17,000 workers. Some economists say these big job cuts will limit the economic recovery.
Congressional economists, meanwhile, predict the unemployment rate won't change much this year. A report from the Congressional Budget Office says unemployment will stay around 7%. The current figure is 7.1. The report warns that quick-fix tax cuts and spending programs could increase the budget deficit and worsen the economy in the long run. It suggests waiting to see if recent drops in interest rates will turn things around. The CBO predicts a weak recovery will begin this spring.
The president of Sumitomo Corporation says Los Angeles County decided to cancel a $122 million rail car contract for, in his words, non-business related reasons. But many workers are praising the move. They say it will protect American jobs. CNN's Dan Blackburn has our report.
Angry workers and politicians gathered outside the county's Hall of Administration to demand cancellation of the controversial $122 million contract with the Japanese firm Sumitomo to build rail cars for the next leg of the region's huge transit project.
It is a line drawn in the sand where we say, we're not going to sit idly by anymore as we watch our taxes and our jobs go somewhere else.
Inside, the message clearly was heard as panel members moved to cancel the contract.
It is in the best interest of the Commission to terminate contract PL 1900 with Sumitomo for vehicles, terminate the contract for convenience, and authorize the executive director.
And several hours later, the panel voted unanimously to approve that motion. Also approved, pending further review, was a proposal to now develop a home-built L.A. rail car, possibly in this Southern California General Motors plant, which the automaker plans to abandon.
We can buy that facility for a fraction of the value, and that's where we need to be producing this product,
with American workers who live here, who pay their bills here, and who pay their taxes here.
The controversy has been building since last month, when transit officials awarded the Green Line contract to Sumitomo, despite a $5 million lower bid from an Idaho-based firm. While denying they are engaged in Japan bashing, organizers of the opposition believe they have sent a message across the country.
Political officials, when they spend taxpayers' money, they need to think how they can reinvest in their own society. Other countries around the world do that all the time. For them, it is standard operating procedure, and it has to start being that for us here as well.
The real issue here is not so much about jobs, there are not really that many involved, but about election year symbolism, the politics of recession, and perhaps the future of American transportation policy. Dan Blackburn, CNN, Los Angeles.
A nationwide survey by the Detroit Free Press newspaper shows many people say they fully intend to buy an American-made car next time they buy one. 607 people were questioned. 51% said they would purchase only a car made in the U.S. 4% said they would buy only an import. 44% said they'd buy either. Japan's parliament is trying to encourage Japanese consumers to buy American. The parliament's lower house announced plans today to buy two Buick Park Avenues. They will cost roughly $92,000 total, enough to make a ding but not a dent in Japan's $38 billion trade surplus with the U.S.
The Honda Motor Company is recalling 70,000 of its Japanese-made cars. The company wants owners to return the cars for repairs to a faulty switch that could leak engine oil. The recall applies to Honda Accords, Civics, and Preludes made in 1992, as well as 1992 Acura, Integras, and Legends. About 70,000 cars were shipped worldwide. 27,000 were destined for the United States.
Bristol-Myers Squibb Pharmaceutical Company has announced it'll provide free cardiovascular drugs to poor people who don't have health insurance. The company already offers such patients access to cancer and AIDS medications. The pharmaceutical industry has come under criticism for making too big profits on expensive drugs.
The definition of big could decide a $150,000 lawsuit. Richard Kaufman, who's described as a large man, is taking Southwest Airlines to court. He says Southwest kicked him off a flight from Phoenix to Las Vegas back in 1990. According to Kaufman's lawsuit, Southwest's crew said he was so big, he was encroaching on the passenger next to him. Southwest says it offers larger passengers a second seat at a discount. Ahead on Day Watch, managing your money while going through a job change. We'll talk with a financial planner who helps the unemployed.
And a bump can cost you a lump. Even a minor crash in a new car can cost thousands of dollars to repair.
In the early 90s, the real estate business changed.
I've got your financing seminar, 2 closings, and a showing.
Busy day.
Busy morning.
Professionals took control, trained to use the latest marketing tools, responsive to the real human issues.
He's not moving, but we've got a meeting set for tomorrow.
And one organization is setting the pace. Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Join us. Call 1-800-ADVANCE.
Something's waiting inside the powerful 486 SX computer. A technology that will make it even more powerful. We call it Room for the Future. Introducing built-in upgradability. Check into it. From Intel, the computer inside.
How many pancakes have you eaten? No way.
Oh, yes, she did, because Mom switched to Bisquick. They're light and fluffy, and Bisquick doesn't have cholesterol.
I didn't know that. Did you know that? She knew that.
Bisquick makes today's pancakes.
Mothers have learned from countless doctors and pharmacists to take care of coughs with Robitussin. And they've taken this advice home. Robitussin, recommended by Dr. Mom. Ask your doctor or pharmacist.
Campbell's heard your healthy request.
Low fat.
Less salt.
But lots of taste.
Here's our answer. New Campbell's Healthy Request ready-to-serve soups. All the great taste you want without some things you don't. New Campbell's Healthy Request. And healthy.
New Hampshire's not first in crime or taxes. They're not first in sports or music. But they're first in the presidential primary. And some folks think that makes them first to be lied to. Promises, Promises. Sunday night, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Unemployment takes a toll on you, your family, your finances. You suddenly find yourself trying to stretch a limited income to meet expenses that show no regard for your changed income status. Financial planning may help soften the blow. And joining us now from our New York bureau is Robert Klarfeld, the president of an accounting and financial planning firm, and his specialty is transitional counseling, helping people who change jobs, lose jobs, or leave jobs, or are just about to lose a job. Mr. Klarfeld, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning. You know, in this economy and a lot of folks losing their jobs, a lot of people are getting a little jumpy. They're getting a little nervous and kind of watching over their shoulders, wondering if this could happen to me. Are there some signs that folks should be looking for?
Well, sure, Donna. If you happen to be in a company that's having some problems and is downsizing, or if you happen to be in a troubled industry, it's certainly a sign to get your financial house in order. Sometimes it could be subtle clues such as no longer being copied on memos or invited to certain meetings. It could even be something like being given piecemeal assignments rather than longer-term projects. These are all signs that something may be cooking.
Mm-hmm. And even if you think that there's a possibility, it might even just be wise to just be sure anyway and get your financial house in order, as you say. How do you make sure that that house is not a house of cards? What do you need to do?
Well, for people who haven't previously done so, it's a terrific time to get your financial house in order. Some of the basics are basically on the back of an envelope, list out what your assets and liabilities are. Get some idea of which assets are liquid, which aren't, which ones you don't intend to touch, which liabilities need to be paid off currently, such as credit cards, and certainly don't touch any long-term liabilities like home mortgages. Another thing sometimes is very useful is to put together a projected cash flow statements. Take a look at what you anticipate your sources of income are going to be over this period of time, including unemployment insurance, any potential severance packages, and then take a look at what your expenses are. Divide your expenses into discretionary and non-discretionary expenses and see where the cash flow works out.
Okay, so cut back on your lifestyle a bit, I think is what you're saying there too. And also, let me just back up for just a moment. I think you mentioned something very important. You talked about liquidity. You've got to be able to get your hands on cash, don't you?
Absolutely. We advise our clients to err on the side of excess liquidity. Although they may have normally a longer time horizon for investments, this is not the time to catch on to longer-term investments. This is a time when where someone wants to make sure that if they do need to liquidate assets, their assets are relatively liquid.
So what would you recommend if you were trying to plan for the next maybe year ahead? What would you do with your accounts? Would you keep the long-term investments there and put as much as you could in savings or in a savings account that you could get your hands on?
Well, I would emphasize money market funds and short-term CDs, short-term treasuries. Providing there's an initial layer of primary liquidity, you could get perhaps a slightly larger return by going out to 1 or 2 year treasuries. Realistically, you're not facing very much of a loss should interest rates rise.
If you see something happening, how much can you hope to accomplish by talking with your employer and saying, look, what can we do? What kind of severance can I get? What kind of benefits can I still keep?
Well, obviously it depends on the employer and the circumstances, but in general, it's a good time to find out in minute detail exactly what the corporate benefits you currently have are, because these are benefits you're going to have to use as a basis of comparison when pricing if you choose to replace those benefits.
On the other hand, could folks get into a panic and start changing things that maybe they should leave well enough alone?
Absolutely. One of the first rules is don't panic. Some long-term investments, such as lump sum distributions from pension plans or 401k plans, if at all possible, they should not be considered part of the safety net. You want to be able to roll those over into IRAs, or certainly you want to continue the tax deferral element.
Financial planner Robert Klarfeld, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And tomorrow on Watch Your Dollars, with mortgage rates falling and reports of tax credits for new home buyers, now may be the best time to start looking for a new house. Tomorrow's guest will give us some tips. Bob?
Coming up, Tom Steiner's sports, including the story of a tight NBA race in Charlotte as the Bulls go after their 11th straight win.
nothing else like it on Earth, or maybe even in heaven.